Ladies, gentlemen, listen carefully because today we're talking about one of the most powerful moments you will ever face in your personal life. The moment when somebody who once had access to your heart suddenly reappears after silence. That message that pops up after weeks or months of nothing. That phone call that comes just when you finally started to heal. That, "Hey, how you been?" that drops into your world without warning. This is not a small moment. This is a crossroads moment. This is a test of everything you've been learning about your worth, your boundaries, your self-respect. Because when someone who left you hanging suddenly reaches out, your heart remembers, your body remembers. But here's the secret your future self wants you to know. You don't have to react. You don't have to hand over your power just because someone else decided it was convenient to pick up the phone again. The very first step in that moment, the thing that sets the tone for everything that follows, is to stay calm. Not half calm, not pretend calm, real calm. The kind of calm that makes your breathing steady and your thinking clear. Because your emotions will surge, your heart will race. You'll feel that flood of adrenaline that comes from the unexpected. It's normal, but calmness is your anchor. Why is calmness so powerful? Because emotions are fast, but wisdom is slow. Emotions act like a wave, intense, high, and temporary. Wisdom acts like the tide, steady, deliberate, shaping the shore over time. If you act in the wave, you'll drown. If you act with the tide, you'll build the life you actually want. So when the notification appears, I want you to do something radical. Don't touch the phone. Don't open the message yet. Don't let your mind start weaving stories. Instead, breathe. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the weight of your own presence. Remind yourself, I choose my timing. I choose my response. I choose my peace. And here's why. When you react too quickly, you hand them the steering wheel. You teach them that no matter how long they vanish, they still have instant access to your time, your energy, your attention. But when you pause, when you create space, you shift the power dynamic. You teach them that access to you is a privilege, not a guarantee. That alone will reveal more about their true intentions than any words they say. Let's talk about the inner dialogue that starts the second you see their name. Your mind goes, maybe he missed me. Maybe he finally realized. Maybe this is our second chance. That's the hope speaking. Hope is beautiful, but it can also be dangerous. Because hope without discernment can lead you right back to heartbreak. And you've worked too hard on your healing to hand it away cheaply. Your job in that moment is to slow hope down. Don't kill it. Don't shame yourself for feeling it. But slow it down enough to put it under the light of truth. Ask yourself, why now? What do I actually feel in my body? Relief, anxiety, confusion. What do I need to protect right now? My peace, my time, my heart? These questions give you space. And in that space, you'll find the version of yourself you've been building in the silence. The self who no longer craves crumbs. The self who no longer lets nostalgia rewrite history. Now that you've learned to breathe, to hold still, and to reclaim your power in that first shocking moment, let's step into the next layer, the quiet analysis. This is where you begin to examine not only what they're saying, but why they're saying it, and more importantly, whether it lines up with what they've shown you over time. Because words can be sweet, they can be shiny, they can be dressed up in apologies or memories or promises, but words alone are like clouds. They look solid from a distance, but disappear when you try to touch them. Actions, however, are the ground beneath your feet. You can stand on them. They don't vanish. So in this stage, your focus shifts from their words to their actions, from their timing to their consistency. Ask yourself, when you were at your lowest, were they there? When you needed clarity, did they provide it or did they hide? When they disappeared, did they acknowledge it or act as if it never happened? These questions are not about dwelling on pain. They're about uncovering patterns. Because patterns reveal intentions more than speeches ever could. You have to become an investigator of energy, not just a listener of sentences. Look at their digital body language. Are they sending a quick hey at 4 p.m. or are they actually asking about your well-being in the middle of the day? Are they trying to see you in public or only behind closed doors? Do they respect your boundaries when you say not now? Or do they push for immediate access? Each of these details tells a story. This is the stage where you hold up a mirror. You put their behavior against your Standards, the non-negotiables. You've already set. Remember, standards are not a wish list of traits. They're the minimum conditions you require to feel safe and respected. If their actions don't clear that bar, you owe it to yourself to step back, no matter how much nostalgia calls your name. And nostalgia will call your name. It's sneaky like that. It shows you highlight reels of your past, edited to remove the pain. It plays back the laughs, the kisses, the late-night talks. It whispers, "Remember how good it felt?" But it rarely reminds you of the confusion, the waiting, the nights you cried. Nostalgia is like a movie trailer for a film you've already seen, skipping over the parts you didn't like. And you must train yourself to see the whole picture. One of the strongest tools you can use here is time. Time is a truth serum. If his intentions are genuine, time will not scare him. Time will not make him angry. Time will allow his sincerity to prove itself. In fact, if he truly wants to rebuild, he'll welcome your caution. He'll show patience. He'll understand why you're hesitant. He'll match your pace instead of demanding you match his. But if time exposes his frustration, his inconsistency, or his manipulation, then you've saved yourself from a deeper heartbreak. That's the gift of patience. It filters people without you having to do anything but hold steady. Let's take a moment to talk about apologies, because this is where many people get caught. A real apology is not just words. It's accountability plus change. Accountability means they acknowledge the harm they caused without deflecting, minimizing, or blaming. Change means they demonstrate different behavior over time. Without those two elements, an "I'm sorry" is just noise. So when he reaches out, listen for more than "I missed you" or "I've been thinking about you." Listen for "I recognize how my actions hurt you, and here's what I'm doing to make sure it doesn't happen again." That's the kind of apology that signals growth, not convenience. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Calm, direct questions. What made you reach out now? What's changed since we last spoke? What are you looking for moving forward? These aren't ultimatums. They're clarifiers. They reveal whether you're talking to someone who's serious or someone who's just bored on a Wednesday night. While you're asking those questions, watch his energy. Energy is hard to fake for long. Does he sound grounded and sincere, or rushed and distracted? Is he transparent about his life, or vague and evasive? Does he show up for the conversation consistently, or only when it suits him? You don't have to be a mind reader. You just have to watch patterns. This stage is also about listening to your intuition. Your intuition is not the same as fear. It's that quiet knowing in your gut that notices inconsistencies before your brain does. When your intuition whispers, "Something's off," don't drown it out with wishful thinking. Give it space. Ask it questions. Sometimes your intuition will guide you to slow down even when everything looks fine on the surface. Trust it. And don't underestimate the power of silence on your side. Just because he broke his silence doesn't mean you're obligated to break yours. Silence gives you leverage. It makes space for his actions to reveal themselves. It keeps you from oversharing or over-explaining before you know if it's safe. Silence also sends a message. Your life is full. Your time is valuable. Your peace is sacred. You're not sitting by the phone waiting for crumbs of attention. You're living, you're thriving, and you're evaluating whether this person deserves to step back into your orbit. That energy alone shifts the dynamic. Let's talk about boundaries in practice, because it's easy to say have boundaries, but harder to apply them when your emotions are high. A boundary can be as simple as, "I don't answer messages after a certain hour. I need a real apology before we hang out again. I'm not comfortable resuming intimacy until we've rebuilt trust. If you raise your voice or guilt me, the conversation ends." Each boundary you set is a declaration of self-respect. And each time you enforce it, you're telling your inner self, "I matter. My peace matters. My standards matter." That builds your self-esteem from the inside out. And remember, enforcing a boundary is not about punishing the other person. It's about teaching yourself that your feelings are valid. It's about creating a container where you feel safe to love and be loved. Without boundaries, love feels like chaos. With boundaries, love has room to grow. Now you might be wondering, But what if he's genuinely changed? What if this time is different? And the answer is, you don't have to decide that today. You don't have to decide that tomorrow. Change reveals itself over time. Consistency reveals itself over time. Let his actions do the heavy lifting. You just hold your ground and watch. If he's truly different, you'll know because his new behavior will feel steady, respectful, and transparent. It will match his words. It will show up not just when he wants something, but when you need something. And it will continue, even when you take your time. That's the mark of sincerity. But if his behavior feels like déjà vu, late-night messages, vague excuses, pressure to pick up where you left off, that's your sign to step back. Because history doesn't just repeat itself out of nowhere. It repeats itself when nothing has changed. Let's talk about boundaries in practice. Because it's easy to say have boundaries, but harder to apply them when your emotions are high. A boundary can be as simple as, I don't answer messages after a certain hour. I need a real apology before we hang out again. I'm not comfortable resuming intimacy until we've rebuilt trust. If you raise your voice or guilt me, the conversation ends. Each boundary you set is a declaration of self-respect. And each time you enforce it, you're telling your inner self, I matter, my peace matters, my standards matter. That builds your self-esteem from the inside out. And remember, enforcing a boundary is not about punishing the other person. It's about teaching yourself that your feelings are valid. It's about creating a container where you feel safe to love and be loved. Without boundaries, love feels like chaos. With boundaries, love has room to grow. Now, you might be wondering, but what if he's genuinely changed? What if this time is different? And the answer is, you don't have to decide that today. You don't have to decide that tomorrow. Change reveals itself over time. Consistency reveals itself over time. Let his actions do the heavy lifting. You just hold your ground and watch. If he's truly different, you'll know because his new behavior will feel steady, respectful, and transparent. It will match his words. It will show up not just when he wants something, but when you need something. And it will continue even when you take your time. That's the mark of sincerity. But if his behavior feels like déjà vu, late-night messages, vague excuses, pressure to pick up where you left off, that's your sign to step back. Because history doesn't just repeat itself out of nowhere. It repeats itself when nothing has changed. Guide. Through all of this, remember, you are not being hard to get. You're being hard to play. You're not playing games. You're protecting your peace. There's a difference. People who truly respect you will feel that difference. People who don't will label it as difficult. And that's okay. Better to be called difficult than to be treated like an option. One last thing about this stage. As you observe his behavior, also observe your own internal signals. Are you feeling anxious every time he texts? Are you feeling relief or dread? Do you feel like you're shrinking to fit the interaction or standing taller because of it? Your emotional state is data. It tells you whether this connection nourishes you or drains you. This entire middle stage is about collecting data, not making impulsive decisions. It's about creating a clear, honest picture of who he is now versus who you remember. It's about asking, does this align with the life I'm building? Because the life you're building matters more than any nostalgia, any promise, any illusion. So stay in your stillness. Watch the patterns. Respect your intuition. Guard your peace. Give his words time to either grow roots or blow away, because your future self will thank you for every moment you chose observation over reaction, discernment over desperation, and standards over fantasy. Up until now, we've focused on pausing, observing, and letting time show you the truth. Now we step deeper into the real heart of the matter, your self-respect and your boundaries. This is the stage where you decide not only whether you'll respond, but what version of yourself is going to do the responding. Because there's a version of you who lived through the nights of waiting, the version who questioned her worth, the version who longed for answers. And there's also the version of you who grew during the silence, the one who built new strength, learned self-trust, and realized her life does not revolve around anyone's sporadic affection. That second version, the wiser, steadier one, is the one who should be making decisions now. Think of self-respect as your internal compass. It points you toward what honors you, what strengthens you, what reflects your value. Without it, you'll drift, chasing validation, confusing attention with affection. With it, you can navigate any emotional storm and still reach the shore of your peace. Here's a truth that changes lives. The moment someone returns after disappearing, your self-respect should enter the room first. Not your feelings, not your nostalgia. Self-respect is the voice that says, I'm worthy whether you stay or go. I don't owe you instant forgiveness or access. I'm allowed to choose what's right for me now. Now pair that self-respect with boundaries. Boundaries are the visible lines that protect the invisible treasures of your life. Your time, your energy, your emotional safety. They're not walls meant to keep love out. They're fences meant to let the right kind of love grow without being trampled. If you've ever wondered why you kept ending up in the same cycle of pain, chances are your boundaries were inconsistent. You told yourself, I won't answer if he calls late at night. But then loneliness won and you picked up. You said, if he disappears again, I'm done. But then you forgave with no accountability. Every time you do that, a small piece of your self-trust erodes. The way you rebuild that trust with yourself is by keeping your word to yourself. If you say, I'll only meet after a real apology, keep it. If you say, I won't respond until tomorrow, keep it. If you say, no intimacy until we've had a real conversation about the past, keep it. Each kept promise to yourself adds a brick to your inner foundation. That foundation becomes unshakable. And don't let anyone tell you your boundaries are too much. Healthy people respect healthy boundaries. The ones who push, guilt trip, or shame you for having standards are showing you they're not ready to meet you at your level. It's not your job to shrink your boundaries to fit their comfort. It's their job to rise if they want access to your life. Think of your self-respect and boundaries like a gate and a guard. The guard checks credentials. Do your actions match your words? Do you respect my time? The gate opens slowly. Consistency earns entry. Without both, anyone can wander in and take what they please. With both, you create a sacred space where trust can be rebuilt on solid ground. Let's look at what rebuilding trust actually means. Rebuilding trust is not about picking up where you left off. It's not about pretending the past didn't happen. It's about acknowledging the break, repairing the foundation, and moving forward with deliberate care. For example, if he truly wants to come back into your life, he should acknowledge the hurt he caused and offer a sincere apology without excuses. Show up consistently over time, not just in bursts when it's convenient. Demonstrate patience with your healing process instead of pushing you to get over it. Ask what you need in order to feel safe again, and then follow through. Notice how every one of those actions costs time and effort. That's how you know it's real. Anyone can send a flirty message. Not everyone can invest months of steady behavior to rebuild what they broke. And as you're observing his actions, you also need to be observing your own inner signals. How do you feel after interactions? Do you feel seen or do you feel pressured? Do you feel clarity or confusion? Your emotional state is a diagnostic tool. When something's real, it creates peace and clarity. When something's off, it creates anxiety and doubt. This is why self-respect and boundaries aren't just about keeping others in check. They're about keeping you aligned. They help you detect whether you're slipping back into old patterns or standing in your new power. Another powerful practice at this stage is to revisit your vision for your life. What did you start building during the silence? Did you begin new hobbies, friendships, self-care rituals? Did you discover a new confidence or direction? Write it down. Make it tangible. Then ask yourself, does this person fit into the life I'm creating? Or do they pull me back into the life I left? When you're grounded in a vision, it's harder for someone to derail you with a single message. You stop asking, will he choose me? And start asking, does this relationship fit the person I'm becoming? That's a powerful shift. You can even share your standards openly, calmly, and without drama. For example, if we're going to talk again, I need honesty and consistency. I won't rush back to where we were. We'd have to rebuild slowly. I'm not interested in casual contact. I'm looking for something real. Notice how those statements aren't emotional outbursts. They're simply declarations of your truth. That's what self-respect sounds like. At this stage, you're also allowed to walk away completely if things don't feel right. Just because he reached out doesn't obligate you to re-engage. You don't owe anyone a second chance. At your heart, if the first chance left you bleeding, closure doesn't always come from conversation. Sometimes closure comes from you deciding, I'm done, and then living that decision. If you choose to engage, do it slowly. Treat it like learning a new language. Each interaction is a data point, not a verdict. Observe how he responds to your boundaries. Notice if he's proactive about rebuilding or if he expects you to do all the emotional labor. Pay attention to whether his words and actions align over weeks, not just days. And through all of this, keep nourishing your own life. Keep seeing your friends, pursuing your interests, investing in your self-care. Don't shrink your world just because someone from your past wants back in. The more vibrant your life is, the easier it is to spot whether someone adds to it or drains from it. Remember, access to you is earned, not owed. You are not a revolving door. You are a whole human being with a life, with a heartbeat, with dreams. If someone wants to be in that life, they must show up with consistency, integrity, and respect. Let's paint another picture. Imagine your life as a beautifully kept garden. Over time, you've planted flowers of self-respect, watered the soil of your peace, and built a fence of healthy boundaries. Someone who once trampled your garden shows up at the gate. Do you fling it open because they're smiling at the fence? Or do you wait to see if they bring seeds, tools, and a willingness to help you tend it this time? That's the power of your boundaries. They protect your garden until someone shows they're safe to enter. And if they're not, you still have your garden. You still have your peace. You still have you. Here's a final key for this stage. Communicate your needs clearly, but don't negotiate your worth. You can express what you need without begging. You can be open to dialogue without abandoning your standards. And if someone truly values you, they'll rise to meet those standards. If they can't, then your clarity saved you from another round of heartbreak. In this chapter of your journey, you're not trying to win someone back. You're not trying to prove you're worthy. You're discerning whether they're worthy of the access they're requesting. You're sitting in the seat of power in your own life, not as a throne of arrogance, but as a seat of responsibility. Because at the end of the day, your heart is your responsibility. Protecting your peace is your responsibility. Choosing who gets close is your responsibility. And while that may feel heavy, it's also liberating. It means you don't have to wait for anyone else to decide your worth or your destiny. So keep your self-respect front and center. Keep your boundaries intact. Keep your pace slow and deliberate. Let the person who disappeared show you, over time, with actions, whether they belong in your life now. And while they're proving themselves, you keep living. You keep growing. You keep shining. Because no matter what they do or don't do, you're already whole. You've paused. You've observed. You've set boundaries and anchored yourself in self-respect. Now comes the part many people never reach. Choosing intentionally. This is where you decide from a place of clarity whether to open the door or keep it closed. And either choice is an act of power. When someone returns after silence, you are standing at a crossroads between the past and the future. One road leads back into a cycle you've already lived. The other road leads forward into the life you've been building. Only you can decide which road to take. And that decision is too important to leave to impulse or nostalgia. In this moment, ask yourself some grounding questions. What do I truly want my life to feel like day to day? Does this person's current behavior match the kind of relationship I envision? If I invite them back in, will my peace grow or shrink? These questions aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to liberate you from the haze of mixed emotions. Because clarity is freedom. If, after careful observation, you see genuine change, consistent actions, accountability, patience, a real effort to rebuild, then you can choose to move forward slowly, with your eyes open and your boundaries firm. You can allow a cautious reopening, a step-by-step rebuilding of trust. That rebuilding might look like starting with honest conversations, or casual but respectful meetups, or simply keeping communication clear and measured until you feel safe again. But if what you see is inconsistency, manipulation, or surface-level charm with no real accountability, then you have every right to close that door, block that number, or simply let the conversation fade without explanation. That, too, is an empowered choice. Ending an unhealthy cycle is not cruelty. It's self-respect in action. This is the stage where you learn the art of non-reactive decision-making. You're not punishing. You're not playing games. You're making choices that protect the future you're building. It's like being the CEO of your own life. You're interviewing a candidate for a position, and the job description is partner, friend, or loved one. If the candidate doesn't meet the requirements, you don't offer the position. This mindset takes the sting out of rejection and the shine off blind hope. It centers you in reality. And reality, when you stand in your worth, feels solid, empowering, and peaceful. Let's explore what it means to maintain your peace even after deciding. If you decide to give him another chance, your peace will be maintained by keeping your boundaries clear, your communication honest, and your pace slow. If you decide to walk away, your peace will be maintained by not looking back, not reopening the conversation, and staying anchored in the life you've created for yourself. Either way, you stay rooted in the truth that your happiness does not depend on their presence. It's important here to acknowledge your own growth. During the silence, you learn things about yourself, your resilience, your creativity, your independence. You discovered that you could survive, even thrive, without their attention. That discovery is gold. Don't lose it now. Bring that same self-trust into every interaction. Because at the end of the day, your worth is not defined by who chooses you. It's defined by who you choose to be. When you live from that place, you'll find you no longer fear loss the same way. You no longer cling to what isn't right for you. You no longer bargain with your boundaries. Let's talk about the power of saying no. Saying no isn't always about rejection. It's about alignment. It's about making sure your yes is powerful, wholehearted, and free of regret. When you say no to someone who hasn't earned access to you, you're saying yes to your peace, yes to your self-worth, yes to your future. You're making room for people and opportunities that are truly aligned with you. And if you decide to say yes, make it a slow yes. A slow yes gives you time to observe, to adjust, to protect your heart as trust rebuilds. A slow yes communicates maturity, self-control, and confidence. It shows you're not desperate. You're deliberate. This is also a time to celebrate how far you've come. Think back to the version of you who would have answered instantly, who would have bent boundaries, who would have confused attention with love. Now look at you, pausing, observing, setting standards, moving with intention. That's growth. That's emotional intelligence. That's leadership over your own life. Another crucial element in this final stage is forgiveness, but on your terms. Forgiveness does not mean re-entry. You can forgive someone completely in your heart and still keep them at a distance. Forgiveness is about releasing resentment so it doesn't poison you. It's not about giving away your power. In fact, true forgiveness often strengthens your boundaries because it clears your mind and allows you to see the situation without the fog of anger. Whether you continue with this person or not, you've already won by learning to protect your peace. You've already transformed by realizing that access to you is a privilege, and you've already elevated by choosing intention over impulse. Let's visualize this transformation. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a river. On the other side is your future, your peace, your dreams, your standards. Behind you is the old shore, old patterns, old wounds, old dynamics. The person reaching out after silence is like a boat arriving on the river. You don't have to get in. You don't have to go back to the old shore. You can wave, you can converse from the dock, or you can simply keep walking forward on your side of the river. That choice belongs entirely to you. Here's another powerful truth. Healthy love feels calm, not chaotic. It feels respectful, not pressuring. It feels consistent, not confusing. When you feel seen, safe, and supported, that's your sign you're moving toward health. When you feel anxious, small, or constantly guessing, that's your sign you're moving back toward harm. Use your body as a compass. It often knows before your mind does. As you make your decision, surround yourself with people who reinforce your clarity, friends who remind you of your worth, mentors who speak truth, activities that anchor you in self-care. Don't isolate yourself with your decision. Community helps you hold your boundaries and celebrate your strength. And finally, commit to honoring your future self. Picture her, the you 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. What would she thank you for today? Would she thank you for leaping back into a cycle? Or would she thank you for pausing, discerning and protecting your peace? Use her voice as your guide, because here's the ultimate measure of growth. Not whether he came back, but whether you've become the kind of person who no longer loses herself when he does. The true victory is emotional independence, the ability to stand in your worth, whether someone stays, leaves, or returns. And as you step into this last stage, remember that you're not only making a choice about one relationship, you're setting a pattern for every future interaction. You're training your nervous system, your mind, and your heart to move with calm intention instead of reactive desperation. You're building a legacy of self-respect. So, if the message pops up again tomorrow, or if the phone rings tonight, you know exactly what to do. Pause, breathe, remember your worth. Assess the motive. Hold your boundaries. Take your time. Decide from a place of calm. And whether your answer is yes, no, or not now, let it be a decision born of clarity, not chaos. Because in the end, the real power is not in getting him to choose you. It's in you choosing yourself. It's in you realizing you are whole, you are worthy, and you are not waiting for anyone to validate your existence. That's the freedom you were building in the silence all along. Let the message be a mirror that shows you how much you've grown. Let your response, or your silence, be a testament to your self-respect. And let your life continue to unfold with the kind of peace, confidence, and strength that makes anyone who enters it realize access here is earned, and love here is sacred. You don't have to rush. You don't have to prove. You don't have to beg. You don't have to fear. You simply stand in who you've become. And from that grounded, radiant place, you decide. That's emotional maturity. That's self-leadership. That's the power of staying calm when the past comes knocking. And the beauty of walking into your future on your own terms.